Welcome to the next level of incredible, where you can be faster, stronger with advanced 4nm process and upgraded ARM v9 CPU and GPU, where you have sharper, clearer photos and videos anytime and anywhere with MediaTek Magic 790 ISP, where you have better, smoother gameplay over extended periods with MediaTek Hyper Engine game technology. Join us on the next level.
Welcome to this Fortune India webinar on how 5G will change the future of business. We have a very interesting panel comprising of all the stakeholders in the coming 5G revolution. There's telecom operator, there's technology developers, tech providers, and of course, a leading telecom analyst. So let me welcome Mr. Shyam Mardikar, President and Group CTO of Mobility at Reliance Jio. Welcome, Mr. Mardikar. Mr. Amit Singh, Director, IBM Research India and CTO, IBM India and South Asia. Welcome, Mr. Singhi. Mr. Mohan Rao Goli is the Chief Technology Officer at Samsung R&D Institute. Mr. Goli, welcome. Mr. Anku Jain is the Managing Director of MediaTek India. Mr. Jain, welcome. And Mr. Tarun Pathak is the Research Director at Counterpoint Research. Pathak, welcome. Welcome to this panel. Let's start with the topic in question. And if I could request you to take about 2-4 minutes to just give your overview, your sense of what you think is going to be the impact that the 5G will have on the future of business. So, Mr. Madikar, we could start with you because you're going to be providing the backbone, essentially, if I may say so, of creating this whole revolution.
Thank you, Raju. Privileged to be here and to start. The demand side story is fundamentally changing as we enter into this post-pandemic era where digitization is the name of the game. And there are three very different vectors from demand side. First of which we have already actually seen and lived in last 2 decades. That's the consumer consumption. The smartphones now are an integral part of human anatomy. I think you just can't live without your phone for whatever. It's not only limited to the communication, but two much bigger portfolios are evolving around demand side, and one of them is this whole massive machine connectivity, and which is one story which 5G inherently from standards has been brought through, because almost everything in the world will need to be connected for some reason or the other. I think for measurement purposes, for tracking purposes, for performance purposes, for management and operation purposes. Third, and I think which is standing out on its own, Rajiv, these days is around this whole industry 4.0. Across all sectors, we will need digital workflows. We will need automated control systems. We will need likes of robotics. And this scaling and this kind of getting deeper into the specific industry domains and helping those industry domains reinvent and reimagine themselves with this whole digital platform underneath. I think this will be the single biggest value which 5G as an underlying technology is going to get. Adding new spectrum does give the comfort and convenience of hyper connectivity, but beyond connectivity, there are two more aspects which are emerging fast and which I call jointly together as the holy trinity of communication: hyper connectivity, hyper compute, and hyper storage. The first big paradigm that 5G is going to change. Very innovative, domain-specific, industry-specific, use case-specific implementations and innovations that we haven't heard of. The second big paradigm 5G is going to change is making the whole programmability part of it native to the 5G. The two other things on the same paradigm, one is about security. And security is now again native to 5G as a platform. Not only security, but automation. And if you add both of them, and that is actually because at the scale at which 5G envisages or the new digital world actually will recreate itself, unless security is the native part of the whole platform, it will be very, very difficult for us to kind of go and do a strap-on security and still make sure that everything is kind of controlled. And the third important thing in this second paradigm, in addition to the intelligent core, in addition to the security, is the evolving intelligence. And this hyper data analyzed on that hypercompute and hyper storage with security inbuilt will actually change the whole programmability domain of 5G.
Sure. See?
I think 5G, apart from all of the technology advancement, it's bringing a set of ecosystem partners together in a way that didn't used to happen. A hybrid cloud and AI company coming together with a connectivity, and a telco company coming together with a car manufacturing company to really solve a core business problem by reinventing, the next set of technology. I think this is where a lot of the magic will happen. Of course, there's a lot of opportunity in each of the silos, to get the latency, to get the bandwidth and all of that. But bringing cloud, AI, and connectivity together for the business is something that 5G will enable in a tremendous way. One of the examples that we often see is in manufacturing. In auto manufacturing, there's so many use cases. This is a complex problem. Manufacturing processes are big beasts with a lot of moving parts. And as digitization happens, there's tremendous opportunity to bring in IoT over there. And one example that we see a lot is visual insights. Like instead of having an army of people trying to visually inspect everything, which is actually not feasible, you can deploy cameras and sensors to monitor everything. Now, to do that, you need some pretty advanced AI that can use computer vision. Right. To do that, you need very reliable connectivity. You cannot afford, glitches to happen so that a bad part goes through the system. And to do that, you need a cloud native software and AI delivery system so that you can make continuous update as you bring new products into your manufacturing line, new inspection. So that immediately shows you how this, cloud AI and connectivity really needs to come in a reliable way into the factory. And that is what 5G can really enable because of the high bandwidth it provides, but also the programmability and the elasticity.
Kohli?
If you look at the Industry 4.0 revolution, right, which Shyam briefly touched upon, right? So what it can contain the smart way of doing the things and smart manufacturing processes, how the factory floors and machines are hyper connected and communicate each other in the real time, and how the data is getting collected from all these machines and the processes and manufacturing processes, etc., to be analyzed in the real time to make the decisions very smartly and then instantly. And all the operations also is becoming like AI powered, right? So like artificial intelligence, ML models are being evolved so much to make all these operations will become smoother into the process. But the problem is that the AI, the models and the data modelings needs heavy processing and memory. So that means that the cloud native platforms and cloud is the only way. But to get into the clouds and servers, latency is also play a very important role. We are talking about the real-time decision making and giving that instant quality checks, right? In the Amit's smart manufacturing process, quality control processes actually. Then the edge servers in the vicinity. So this looks that without 5G, Industry 4.0, I think it will be virtually not possible.
Mr. Jain?
This 5G is coming at a really good time, although it's a bit late in India. And we are very excited that it's being launched now. And I feel the rollout of 5G services in India will prove to be an inflection point, towards disruptive innovations, new research directions, new services, and new revenue streams. And we already are ready from MediaTek point of view. We are ready with 5G technology. In fact, this is the first time we have seen that MediaTek powered 5G phones are in the market already, even though the deployment has not been done yet. So what I feel is that 5G would actually be a big catalyst in further digitalization of India as well as other countries. One big use case I feel is about startup ecosystem. We have seen that in India we have seen over 100 plus unicorns which have already been there, and I think this 5G will be another ingredient for the innovation to explode. So our entrepreneurs in India will have another shot at it, and I think this 5G will bring much more innovation from that point of view as well. Apart from what we have seen, we have heard about enterprise and so on. I think from Indian economy point of view, this will create a large catalyst for the Indian economy from the startup point of view. And another use case which I again see from Indian point of view is the fixed wireless access. We have seen that for India, we have, remote areas are still not connected. So this 5G connectivity will actually help them to get the broadband access. So this 5G will also kind of change the way people do business, and even the end users. They are able to leverage this technology. So and from MediaTek point of view, we kind of saw it early, and we have been doing R&D on this for the last several years. And this so our Dimensity set of chipsets, 5G chipsets we have the entire gamut of range of chipsets from the mainstream to the premium to the flagship. And I think all these chipsets are able to provide our OEM partners the complete plethora of chipset for their end users use case.
Sure. Partha?
One underlying fact is how much of money will be saved. I think if you look at that number, so this technology transition will not just talk about the value creation or the number of opportunities it will create. Obviously, that will be enormous, but how much it is going to save, I think that is where the real opportunity lies. The second thing is, we have always been this data, even in the 4G era, there a lot of things got connected. But the real trick here in the 5G transition, how you are going to analyze that data, because now you will have sensors that will be deployed everywhere. So what 5G will enable for the businesses is how you will process the data, utilize that data, and use it in your businesses. I think that will be the real differentiator. And this is the one technology that will not cut across just one segment, which is consumer. I think 3G, 4G, we all talk about more from the consumer standpoint of view. Here we are talking across businesses, across consumer.
Yeah, and also, whatever it will do for the consumer, and there are exciting things ahead in terms of the speeds and stuff like that. But I think all of you would agree that the biggest opportunity that is there in 5G is in the enterprise side. And so, if I may ask you, how what part of the enterprise, or what segment or sectors of the enterprise do you think is going to see the maximum transition or transformation? If I may ask you, which are the sectors that appear the most exciting to you when it comes to the enterprise part of it? Mr. Madhika, do you want to start on this?
What is happening right now in the industry ecosystem is a two-phased manifestation of change. Number one is the collapsing of hierarchy, and now anything could be flat. And flat does not mean just that 4 layers will become one. Flat will also mean that each 4 layers will now talk to each other directly. So it's more of a mesh and a flatter architecture. Now the value it gives is immense. The problem in doing this is this will make the whole framework extremely complex, so complex that human beings can't run it. And hence these kind of digital platforms like 5G will actually make sure that the underlying digital platform make sure that the hierarchies, these collapsing hierarchies are kind of taken care of. That's the first part. The second big part is the industries are converging. And again, this is important. I mean, and one may ask that, how do you say that a manufacturing industry is converging with a medical industry or an agriculture industry? But this convergence is happening in the way that the whole digital overlap part of these industries are going to happen. The converging part is now most of them are now getting programmable, most of them are getting software driven, most of them are getting kind of distributed across with very specific capabilities of automation and digitization, and all of them are now giving rise to tons and tons of data which an AI/ML based software or a platform can process and run from performance. So management layers are converging. I am actually treading on a very, very thin line here, but I still want to seed this thought and make this thought that it is not about the reduction in importance of a domain. I mean, an automobile industry will need automobile engineers. A medical industry will need doctors and so on and so forth. But the ability of the digital ecosystem to abstract, adopt and replicate these domain capabilities on the machine will go a long, long way. Imagine if somebody can actually codify what they are doing and replicate it into 1,000 places. Now, their monotonous job is now handed over to the machine. Now they are free to innovate and improvise at the next level.
Sure. Singhi?
I think we are at a moment where the 5G technology coupled with the hybrid cloud technology, coupled with AI and security innovations, kind of are all coming together within the same decade, roughly, right? I mean, it's really hard to say this industry versus that is going to be impacted. But I think that example of taking domain expertise and replicating it is very powerful. If you can get to a new way of operating where you can adapt your processes, your products, and so on at 10x the speed, then you can you can shape the market. And so replicating that domain expertise, whether it's done in terms of visual inspection or a quality or performance optimization of these assets, using AI models or other things that are deployed at the edge, leveraging 5G, can actually help you reach that 10x capacity.
Yeah, sure. Skoli?
In India, if you can take it to that, there are many million small scale or medium scale businesses are still not IT enabled. Maybe due to their lack of knowledge or the cost or security or whatever may be the situations. But I think that the 5G will create this kind of opportunity by having, if the telcos come up with the bundling of the connectivity along with the services, which are very suitable for their domain related things, so that it can improve their overall efficiency and productivity. It's not just the connectivity like many panelists are explaining that. It is about the connectivity along with the services, low latencies, network slicing, and cloud native platforms, virtual RANs, private networks. There are many such kind of things the 5G is going to offer to these businesses. But when it comes back to the my own assessment, that the first one is that which will immediately get benefited is the education. If by providing that AR, VR kind of thing and providing the much more sensor data, etc., if we can provide that, I think the educational sector will get really get benefited with the 5G. And second thing is about the enterprises itself. If we can provide the fixed wireless access kind of coverages, not only the enterprises, but also to the people, the connectivity portion will suffice. The 5G will provide that kind of a broadband spectral efficiency to provide to these particular people. Because of the scale of the population in India, I think we are not yet experiencing the real mobile broadband, but EMBB portion of the 5G will provide that, increase that data throughputs of the people so that internet makes that country delightful, right?
Very interesting that you reminded us of the fixed wireless thing, because those seem to have gone out of the consumer, space entirely. And it will be very interesting that they come back. Mr. Jain, your thoughts on what sectors and what areas you think are going to see the maximum capture?
If you see, the real magic will happen when AI, IoT, and 5G come together. That's what we have been hearing, and I think that's very much true. So if you take an example of a manufacturing unit which has a lot of sensors and a lot of devices, and they're all connected, then to make it really effective, you need to have some AI running on top of it, right? Because a lot of data is created, and then to do things like predictive maintenance, etc., you have to analyze the data and then give some information to the supervisor there. So for that to happen, the AI can really happen on the cloud, or it can happen on the edge. So now with the 5G happening, where the sensors are on the field and you still need connectivity, I think the AI on the cloud will become more effective, because AI really, the better, to have effective AI, you need trillions of bytes of data. Now that cannot be processed on the edge, right? Or it cannot be processed in the premises. It has to be done on the cloud. So for that to happen, the lot of data has to be communicated to the server, and then some AI happens there, and then some important information comes back. So this kind of event can happen only with a connectivity like 5G with latency and high bandwidth. And the second thing I want to talk about is when I in fact went to the hospital recently, and I saw that for something like gallbladder surgery, it can be done by a robot, right? So it's called a robotic surgery. So in that, what happens is a robot actually is it's a machine, and it's really operated by the doctor, right? And doctor is sitting in the next room, so he can actually do the surgery sitting in the next other room. But now with the 5G happening, it can be a doctor who's millions of miles away. I mean, thousands of miles away, right? Use case, and I think more and more such use cases will come up as we can explore this concept. And the third is about what Mr. Goli mentioned about AR/VR, right? I think AR/VR will be a very important use case for 5G, in which you can have immersive training, for example, or education, and immersive simulation of, let's say, flight simulation and so on. These examples can then be exploited to different industries and different use cases.
The only thing what we need to look out is how the processes will be optimized. So let's take an example of, we have like almost like 500 million people in our like workforce, right? Even if 5G can save 5% of that, optimizing the entire time, and we are talking about saving almost 200 million hours per day of our workforce, which is very young, agile, and one of the best in the world. So think of the impact that it will have. Now, if we talk about sector specific industries, I think the preventive healthcare can be looked at from the 5G perspective, how we can deploy certain technologies to predict in advance what is going to happen, especially on the rural healthcare point of view. So that is point number two. Even the manufacturing side of things, I think the processes will be optimized, and definitely the disruption will be across different industries going forward.
Right. So then there's, there are the airwaves, there is the technology that we talked about in some detail. The next is the manufacturing ecosystem, the ecosystem of devices. And we're seeing for the first time, finally, there is interest in investing in semiconductor fab capacities, for the ISO, and that's very encouraging. What does this mean for the manufacturing ecosystem of India, and where can we leverage, and will we be able to leverage this for our impact in the global markets? So may I request Mr. Singhvi and Mr. Jain to start discussion on this, and then we can go to the other panelists.
I mean, we all know there's tremendous intent in the country at all levels, right? In the government and in industry, also in research and academia, to come together, to tie Make in India with the semiconductor mission also. Especially given all of the global dynamics at this point, many countries are looking at that. I think we have all the right players connecting together. We even have, for example, academia taking a lead here, because some of the expertise around next generation technologies tends to lie with local academia, but then engaging industry both globally and locally to bring some of the best practices. We do need to do more to bring it into an execution plan, right? To start off some proof points that actually demonstrate, yes, this can be done and it is getting successful. And that, I think, will open the floodgates of this. I can tell you there's a lot of interest, not just in semiconductor traditional technology. We're seeing a lot of interest also in the quantum side, with the National Quantum Mission for quantum technology and applications. And both academia, industry, government coming together to channel research at the software level, but also looking at the hardware level.
Yeah. So Jain?
I think the semiconductor manufacturing will really start from the more mature nodes first, and even that is a big step. And slowly and steadily the ecosystem will form for this to happen. And due to geopolitical reasons, and this is really important from a strategic point of view for the country, it's really important that there is more semiconductor manufacturing and more electronics manufacturing locally in India. And that is something which we are seeing now. It's still early days, but the steps have been taken, and I think the momentum is there now. And from MediaTek point of view, we're also very excited about this. We are actually the world's fourth largest global fabless semiconductor company, and we power 2 billion devices per year. So, if this manufacturing starts in India, it really, helps us directly, because in that case, we can source components locally, and we can then work more closely with our ecosystem players in India. And what we have seen is that in India, there are many companies which are coming up who are advancing in the local manufacturing, and they are still, doing for some parts here, the validation is still not very high in India. But with the time, as time flows, that will mature. And from MediaTek point of view, that's very exciting for us, because that really that's really very relevant for us. Because we are the chipset design company, and what we have seen, what we are doing now is that we already have a high presence of R&D here. We have two offices, one in Noida, one in Bangalore, with about 800 R&D engineers. And what we foresee in the coming years is that as the local manufacturing momentum increases, we will be also increasing the strength of MediaTek engineering here, so that we can support them more closely. Because we have seen that the local or anywhere, the R&D companies of our OEM partners, R&D centers of the OEM partners, they also need a lot of support from a company like us. So as we go forward, MediaTek is all geared up, and we will try to increase our strength so that we can support the local upcoming ecosystem players.
Sure. Mr. Kohli, what does it mean for the manufacturing and technology?
Yeah, thanks, Rajiv. And my perspective about the semiconductor industry for India is that I think India needs to look into the different kind of innovations when it comes to the semiconductors. Like Amit briefly mentioned about the quantum communications. Not only the quantum communications, quantum computing and energy-aware computing. These are the various areas. Still, the semiconductor need to do the research. So if we can bring up the expertises in these particular areas, I think it will create the momentum for the India ecosystem to grow on the semiconductor fab industry.
Mr. Pathak?
Almost like 66% of the semiconductor made last year were on mature nodes. So even if we capture the mature node side of thing, I think that will be a great start. The more we create, I think the value addition for India and the opportunity is huge. It can be a great export opportunity as well. We need to look at it from the futuristic perspective. Every country requires an anchor companies. The companies like Tata's, the Vedantas, right? They are joining hands with the global biggies. And then comes the bigger piece, the skill development point of the thing. I think we need more PhD graduates going forward. We need to upskill.
Mr. Madikar, what does this mean for the manufacturing ecosystem in your view?
We are extremely well suited to become a global alternative to manufacturing, not only in semiconductors, for sure semiconductor, but almost in any other domain. Political will is there, PLI schemes are there, Anku mentioned part of it. I mean, we can actually run on multiple tracks. We can run on mature, we can run on quanta as in innovation, we can actually get best of both worlds. I think the biggest advantage which we have, which China also had to a large extent, is we are our own biggest consumers. So we will never have a dearth of market itself. It is not only that we will become a manufacturing hub, this will also help all the downstream industries and all the downstream consumer industries to operate at a higher operating margin and all of that. So very excited on this domain for sure.
If very briefly, if you could give us what does this mean for SMBs? Very quickly, your perspective. And then the last point is about, if there were two use cases that you had to pick personally that you're most excited about as far as 5G is concerned, what would those be? So if I may start this time with Mr. Pathak.
I think for the SMB, one thing that 5G will larger bring to is the security on the business. 5G will enable you to save a lot of money. Like, for example, if you have to make your work force model hybrid, 5G will enable you to do that. And at the same time making that security and privacy in the business intact. Again, from the India perspective, I'm very excited about looking at the fixed broadband penetration. The societal impact of the technology is something I'm very excited, and that can happen in multiple ways. We talked about healthcare, we talked about agriculture, we talked about manufacturing part of how you are basically adding value to the people's lives and make it even better.
Then SMBs and use cases.
One aspect I feel is about the efficiency itself. The SMBs can leverage cloud more. So, I think 5G can actually help to have that to happen, more efficiently and more cost effectively. So SMBs don't have to really invest in their own infrastructure, for example. And for use cases, I think a lot have been said about healthcare and all that. I feel from India point of view, what we have seen the trend in the last 1 or 2 years, there's a lot of user-generated content. So with 5G happening around us, what we will see is that more high-quality user-generated content. And secondly, I would say about cloud gaming. Cloud gaming will pick up speed with 5G in place.
Mr. Kohli?
I agree that we have 5G will enhance the efficiency and thereby their productivity and reduce the time to market and reduce their cost of operations. But I think what also will happen is that the 5G will transform the way they interact with their own customers, their own offerings for with the customers. For example, in the retail segments, right? I mean, if the people can see and experience the products related to their wear and see whether the sizes are proper and see how they look at, and then all these things will happen in the real time, so that feedback will be generated to these SMBs, and then it will get benefited to there. I think the way that they interact with the customers also will change with the 5G. I feel that by laying out the fiber optic cables, nooks and corners of the country is going to be very, very difficult. So 5G will provide this fixed wireless access and make the remote people also to be connected to the 5G network. So that is going to be the super critical, because in India, many of the students, they don't work on the PCs or laptops. They access the internet through the mobile devices, right? So if we can make the fixed wireless access, and wherever the CPEs are installed, the people can easily get connected to the 5G backbones. And of course, there are many fancy use cases like AR, VR, use experiences, cloud gamings, and 4K or 8K streamings. This all will happen in India as part of the 5G rollout itself.
Right. Stingy?
As domain expertise gets more deployed at scale, as digital agents, as AI, right? I think that also will empower SMBs to have access to some of those as services, right? Digital services, rather than always needing to go and hire scale or, have staffing, which is permanent. The other is we'll probably see, just like we've seen with Web 2.0, with YouTube and everything, a lot of SMBs in this new digital platform shaping up, new kinds of digital businesses, whether it's around education, people training others, or whether it's, around gaming or whatever. In terms of use cases, manufacturing is one that we are very invested in. So, I just really look forward to that. We'll be doing a lot in that. And I hope that, as 5G, cloud, AI, they come together to unleash a lot more innovation and local economy that can match up anywhere in the world. We will see that brain staying rather than draining, right? I think that is something I really look forward to.
So, Adhikar, you have the last word.
I think two fundamental value adds, I think, will get to SMBs. First, well, I call it as a visibility to the global marketplace, because with things going digital and flatter, they will be much more visible in the larger ecosystem than where they are. Second big thing that is going to happen is, because of this whole exposure and understanding, their ability to, and couple of earlier panelists actually alluded to this slightly differently, their ability to start playing into adjacencies will get bigger. because they will see what is happening around them and they will kind of use that to value add, and it will be a self-fulfilling thing. On the use cases, I think India-specific medicine has to do a lot, both from a cost and availability of the medical facilities, doctors, and remote consultations and all of that. That's going to get really, really big, is what I believe. My second guess would be between education and agriculture. Education is no-brainer, but the depth of kind of change in education is something which we need to see how it happens. Agriculture is kind of nascent at this point of time, and like Tarun said, if we need to copy it from what West is going to do, it will be difficult. We'll need to innovate for local use cases. But I think again, the amount of efficiencies both of these verticals can draw, both education and agriculture, going forward in the coming years, along with medicine, will change the way India lives and operates.
Thank you, Ms. Madikar. So with that, we come to the end of this panel discussion. I would like to express our gratitude from on behalf of Fortune India for you sparing the time for this panel, and thank you so much for participating in this panel and discussing on this very, very critical
Thank you.
revolution on the way. Thank you so much.